I'd like to welcome you to the first of a series of micro-learning sessions that the Talent Resource Committee, that's an initiative of our Talent Resources Committee. And what we aim to do is be able to offer information and support to our members on relevant HR topics that are happening right now that people need a little bit of extra information or some support for. And today we have a presentation that's been put together by Broughton, who is the principal consultant and HR business partner at UpSourced HR, and Tara Lennox, who is the senior partner at Select People Solutions. So they're going to talk to us today about recruiting in the virtual world and give us a few tips and suggestions on how we can do that effectively in this new situation we're in, where we're primarily virtually recruiting. So without any ado, I'm going to pass this over to Chris and Tara. Thank you.
Perfect. So I'll go ahead and share my screen here. Just have a little bit of a slide deck to keep us on track a little bit, but thank you for that introduction, Ashley. And welcome to today's presentation. Certainly a trend that I've been noticing over the past couple of months is that just the number of jobs being posted in the Lethbridge area. And I guess just was, I'm surprised and pleasantly surprised at the number of roles that have been posted. I guess today's conversation is a little bit around how just some tips and tricks, again, that Tara and I can provide you as kind of participants, and on how to improve that overall recruitment process in this virtual environment. So this presentation is going to be a little bit of a conversation between Tara and I, and about, again, those tips and tricks. Tara, anything you'd like to add?
No, I see a lot of familiar faces, so hello. Like Ashley said, I'm the general manager at Select People Solutions, and you know, it's kind of a certainly that recruitment is our world. So we've learned, we've adjusted over the past year and a year plus, I guess. And it's neat to see a bunch of different industries on here. So because every industry is gonna face different challenges, so it'll be an interesting conversation to see where we go with it.
Great. Yeah, so we have about half an hour here. Certainly we'll try to get through the information as we can, and then leave time at the end for some conversation if you choose to. And by all means, feel free to reach out to any of us if you have any additional questions afterwards. But you know, we stick around, and I will be here at the end of the presentation if you have anything that you'd like to share as well. Gone through the introductions. A little bit of kind of what we're going to be covering today, just connecting with candidates, reviewing some of the online platforms that are available, how to prepare for a virtual career fair, just a quick review of some applicant tracking systems and how those can benefit the recruitment process, looking at the differences between in-person versus some of the virtual interviews, and then again, just some tips and tricks on onboarding remotely. So if you have any questions, feel free to jump in, but also that please use the chat box function as well, as we'll be kind of monitoring that just in case anyone has any particular questions. So I guess let's get right into it. You know, one of the biggest things about recruitment is connecting with candidates and getting that good candidate pool. There are various social media platforms out there that organizations can use to really connect with the labor market in general. And this isn't necessarily, in my opinion, connecting with you know, specific candidates. It's more so just about connecting with like I said, the labor pool in general. Tara, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, you'll notice that we didn't put Kijiji on here. With what we found in our business is when we do put an ad in, and typically when we talk to clients that are looking, they'll say, oh, I threw an ad up on Kijiji, and we just get a whole bunch of resumes that we're going to spend a ton of time on. And you know, one of the big things is to reduce your time invested in recruitment. So you want to spend as little time on the resumes and people that will never even step foot in your building, right? So how do you kind of sift through all of that to get the quality people right off the bat? And we find just a lot of Kijiji people just hit apply, and then they don't even know, frankly, what they're applying to. So that's why I didn't suggest putting it on this list. within our business, it's really a lot of times people that the network on Facebook, right? Being able to, we find that LinkedIn is a lot more business directed. So for those higher level positions, not so much like industrial entry level positions, but as you move up, LinkedIn is a great platform for sure. I don't know a ton about TikTok. We don't use it particularly within our business, but do you use it, Chris, at all?
No, I don't. I know, and again, I know some organizations use it to connect with their customers and clients, just to basically help build that network a little bit more so than just connecting on that personal or that business level. They use it to connect with people and the public in general. I know I personally follow Select People Solutions on Facebook and various platforms, and so I do see the various roles that that those organizations post, and I would encourage organizations to not only connect with candidates with customers and clients through those social media platforms, but it's also about connecting with potential job applicants as well. But as I said, as far as TikTok, I don't use that platform, but I know many organizations are starting to use that to, again, showcase their products and things like that. As Tara mentioned, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram are all areas that we can connect with our customers, but also those candidates. I mentioned kind of the bullet point down here about the field of dreams approach. What I find is that a lot of organizations do is they post a job on their website and kind of expect people to be able to see that job. But many times organizations don't realize that people aren't necessarily visiting their website to look for jobs. We aren't necessarily the Googles of the world where people are actively searching for that particular company. And there may be some in the Lethbridge market, but that usually isn't the case primarily. So that's where, again, trying to connect with candidates across multiple platforms, I think is ideal.
Mm-hmm. And Indeed too, that's one that we didn't put on here. I find Indeed effective for our business. We get a lot of our applicants through that as well. So
yeah, and that kind of goes into the online platforms a little bit there on the various areas that organizations can post their jobs and then actually notify the public that these jobs are available. And as Tara mentioned, we do have Indeed, LinkedIn, Kijiji, ZipRecruiter, Facebook. Those are all things that platforms that organizations can use. I myself have experience with all these different platforms. Personally, Indeed has become kind of one of the areas where many people will start to look for their jobs, I find, and just type in general laborer and Indeed and just look for all the jobs in that particular market. But as Tara mentioned, I think before, as people will just hit apply to every job. They'll kind of go down the list and just apply without really putting much thought into that. And so that's where my point down here about quality over quantity. I find that some of these things, these tools like Indeed, you really do get just that quantity of applications. You might get 200 applications for a certain role, but when you actually sift through all the resumes and spend the time to look for it, you may only get 10 applicants that are actually maybe qualified for that role.
And the way that some of these platforms worked, we used ZipRecruiter for a while, I guess last year. And what we found is what they do a lot is that and Indeed does the same thing. If you post in one platform, other like Glassdoor, and there's other ones that will pull from that. So and have you found that, Chris, that so we used Zip, but all it ended up doing is pulling our own ads from Indeed that we've already got up there and reposting them. And we didn't find it's quite big down east, but we didn't find it as effective in southern Alberta. So we don't use that anymore, but Indeed certainly, and then other platforms do pull from that and blast it other places.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, there are certain job boards out there that are considered aggregators. And so they take jobs from other places and post them on their platform to, again, increase traffic to their website. But to actually apply for that job, you can then go through to the previous website. So Indeed does that, ZipRecruiter does that, wowjobs.ca, a couple of various platforms that, again, just pull those ads from either your own job board on your own career site or other sites as well. And you just kind of get that information. Monster does that, and some of the other platforms as well. So again, trying to understand a little bit of an idea of approach to how you want to maybe think about getting that information out to the public, and having a little bit of a thought process out, rather than what I call the spray and pray method of basically just throwing it on every job board out there, hoping that someone's going to apply. Just having a little more of a focused approach on, if you're looking for a certain position. For example, I'm looking for a community peace officer currently for a client. And so one of those things is I could go out there and throw it out on Indeed. However, I'm likely not to get the candidates perhaps that I'm looking for. So I go ahead and post on the Alberta Association of Community Peace Officers job board specifically, and it gives a little more of a narrow focus for that particular skill set that we're looking for.
Yeah. Certainly, we do the same thing. I mean, we join more associations and groups across Canada than maybe we would like to, because we just work on so many. But to target recruiting. That's certainly effective too.
Yeah. And again, it really depends on the nature of the position, I find as well, right? We talked about, some of those maybe general laborer positions. You may have success with that, that spray and pray method of just getting the word out there that we're looking for entry-level general laborers, no skill set required, and just kind of getting it out there. So that method may work in that case. But like I said, with cases where you're looking for maybe of a more particular skill set, you may be inundated with candidates that may not be qualified for that role, and really just spend more hours sifting through resumes than really what's necessary.
Yeah. And Chris, like when you write your ads and that sort of thing, how do you suggest to people that their ads stand out? Because there are so many coming up online. What makes an ad stand out in your opinion more than others?
Oh, that's a good question, and I am not a copywriter or a marketing guy myself. But really, I think the focus is on making the job sound exciting, focusing on the overall responsibilities of the position, but really trying to focus on some things that your particular candidates might find interesting, and to find out what those interesting things might be. You probably want to interview individuals currently holding that role to find out what interests them about that role, and really kind of maybe try to focus on those areas in the job ad itself. How about you, Tara?
For us, it depends on the type of role. It depends on if we're looking for a needle in the haystack or if it's something that's a very common role, right? Like an administrator, for example. So if it's an administrator or something that a lot of people, I think, will apply to, then we make more specifics, like, we only are looking at people with these traits, because we don't want people coming from, for example, retail that have never sat in a desk all day to apply to our job and us to have to spend time on them. We want people that have that, what is it, like 3 to 5 years experience sitting in a desk all day. And we'll even write that, like sitting in a desk all day, like be obvious about it. Because you want to find the right fit for the people. We're in a day and age where, when we're interviewing people, they're interviewing us and our clients just as much as we are interviewing them. It's like we're almost playing eHarmony for business, right? It has to be a mutual fit. Otherwise, it's just not going to be sustainable. So it's more about finding out what people are looking for, but then also really tightening that scope, in terms of the skill sets that we're looking for. If we need them to do pivot tables, or we'll say do not apply unless you have this experience or this skill set. If we're looking to cast a wider web, then it's about, we want to catch anybody that has ever, for example, like say for Adobe, or something specific in a drafting technician or something, but it's kind of a needle in a haystack. We want to cast a wide net. So it's like, if you've ever done anything, and so again, we'll try to make them unique so they kind of pop out for people, because sometimes people just scroll, right? Just scroll. I'm not really looking for a job. I'm kind of a passive looker. What's going to catch your eye? And so it can be things, and we'll make, if we're looking for a maintenance guy, for example, we'll put in the ad, do you want to play with tools all day, right? Or something that's kind of lighthearted, that's catchy, that's not, maintenance technician. Something that kind of catches the eye, just to attract. It's about being creative, and why would they want to join your team? So we always try to, if we can, we put in what's the value add for the candidate, like, and when I'm talking to clients, one of my questions is why would somebody want to come work with you? And if you can't answer that, then you've got a bit of a problem, right? Then you need to find some reason why your place is better than the next place.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
Yeah.
So I guess some takeaways from this for individuals is, be creative and be deliberate with your job postings. I think the key takeaways from that, and have a little bit of a thought process when it comes to where you want to post and how you want to post that ad. A little bit about virtual career fairs, something that I know we've discussed a little bit on the chamber side on how we can facilitate these conversations and really kind of get the word out there. But if you're an organization with multiple positions within an organization that you're looking for, you may want to consider looking at a virtual career fair where you can invite members of the public to attend. And really what it looks like is it could be very similar to kind of what we're doing right now, just a simple Zoom call where you have multiple participants looking at the presentation on the organization in general. And then I guess, break it down from there. If you want to focus on your engineering department, accounting department, you can create these breakout rooms where you could have presentations from members of your team on that role specifically, and kind of encourage individuals to attend through that. So some of the benefits of the virtual career fairs I find are a greater reach and efficiency. So you're not having to secure a room or a hall of some kind, or invite people to your workplace. This can be all done remotely, and so you can encourage quite a bit more people to attend these events. And then just kind of reduce travel and expenses overall for the organization, because these type of platforms have become quite cost effective for us to be able to host these sessions. So just some thoughts on virtual career fairs. I don't know if you had anything you want to add to that, Tara, at all.
Yeah, again, it's about finding, doing an initial quick screen and and pre-screening them all almost, which is something that when we're involved in them, that's what we do. And so we've had some great candidates. We've also not wasted time on not candidates that are a fit, bringing them in for an interview, putting them into our system, and so on. What platforms, do you know of any platforms, Chris? That I don't, because we do it generally through like the university, for example, or different different virtual career fairs that other people put on. But have you had any experience with any good platforms for that?
I know that there are a couple, and I've researched a couple. However, with Zoom and Google Meet, both having breakout room features, I believe Microsoft Teams has the same functionality. I'm not as familiar with that platform, but these are really simple tools that organizations currently have without having added cost, that they can easily facilitate these type of conversations. But I know that there are virtual career fair platforms even before the pandemic that had begun popping up a little bit, and so that is something to maybe consider. But like I said, I personally think that these platforms like Zoom or Google Meet, have the functionality for the most part that would be just fine. Yeah. So a little bit about applicant tracking systems. Tara, did you want to start on your experience?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we live and breathe our ATS because we just, we have, our database contains over 20,000 people probably. So it's like a warehouse, basically, for lack of a better word, of the people that apply to you. So if you have people, for example, if you're a private company and you interview somebody and then you have some staff changes and maybe 3 years later, you're going to go back and put that job up again for looking for someone, and this person applies again, you want it, and you've said no to them the first time, you don't want to spend that time going through that process again. So it's about managing your information and keeping notes and making sure, you know, and it just really, I mean, it can be very basic. It can be done like it says here in an Excel spreadsheet, right? Just to keep track of those names so you can kind of cross-reference as you get resumes in, and then, you know, and then after you meet them, you put a little note in there. Huge time saver, I think, for people, and probably a lot of them have other integrations into it, so it can be, you know, sales orientated and that, but I think just in general, probably a spreadsheet would be the best, but certainly worth keeping track of. All those apply for sure.
Yeah, I'm certainly, you know, if you had a database of 20,000 people, a spreadsheet would likely not be sufficient. But, you know, I know I've worked with some organizations in the past where, again, you know, you ask them about some of the candidates and they pull out this folder with a stack of resumes, and that's kind of their applicant tracking system itself. But unfortunately, with those systems, it's not easy to search for someone. You know, just again, you could end up with a sheer or a large volume of applications that way. And so it really is ideal, in order to be able to track these candidates better, of having some sort of system where you can, as Tara mentioned, you know, contain this information about contact information, their status on the position, the resumes, and it just basically, you know, make sure that all the information can be tracked effectively and efficiently. So you can also, as I mentioned, my bullet point here about managing the sources as well. So this is something that you can also review some of the stats of, let's say, for example, you hire multiple candidates. You can then review back to kind of where those people came from. And so if you determine that your newspapers are a great source of candidates and information there, then continue using that source. If you determine that Facebook or LinkedIn ads are really kind of driving some of those that lead generation, then again, looking at it from that point of view and sourcing more candidates from those areas might be beneficial. So that's the benefits of using an applicant tracking system. So so let's maybe jump into a little bit of the selection process. And this is kind of, I think, goes beyond just you know, virtual recruitment itself, but this is just a kind of just recruitment in general, just a little bit of a brief understanding of the selection process. So Tara, do you want to go through that?
Yeah, job description is certainly very important. People that are applying for a job need to understand what you're looking for. If you're starting in job description, everybody, I mean, not everybody, but not many businesses love writing them. And so there's some places where you can actually find a lot of good resources. And one of them is ALIS, A-L-I-S. It's a government screen or website, and it really shows kind of wage ranges. It gives you descriptions what the schooling is for different positions, and it's got hundreds of different careers, you know, different levels of different like careers, like for example HR, it'll go HR coordinator, manager, director, and so on. And so give you the different, you know, what experiences, give you some good verbiage. So definitely a good source for people. I don't know, Chris, you want to jump in with that one? Or
Yeah, no, just that. Yeah, ALIS is a great resource, and ONET, which is based out of the United States, it's a government of the United States website. They have a job description writer that's really good and helpful to help. It helps me understand a little bit more about roles that I'm not familiar with, and helps to build those job descriptions.
Right. Okay, so then, yeah, I mean, selection, you have to identify candidates. So really pre-screening, we find very helpful. We send them all testing, like skills testing, because if you don't have the skills, for example, for administrative roles, we don't even, you know, for certain clients won't spend the time. We'll suggest you go to get some schooling on that, and just making, you know, and I see that one of our recruiters, Sam, is online, and she spends time pre-screening them. You know, are you willing to relocate? Because I don't want to spend an hour of my time with you if you're not prepared to actually move to Lethbridge. We found a lot of people nowadays want to work remotely and not relocate, but clients here we just find aren't open to that. So, you know, just pre-screening, trying to rule out people without spending, again, that time on people that will never come in your door. value of assessment, skill sets. How do you test that they actually can do what they do? And there are some resources out there, you know, through different businesses, and just to make sure, you know, in some cases, you know, we have people do a bit of a presentation if that's going to be a part of their job, or write something or edit something, or, you know, just getting those interviews kind of that one step further where you're actually asking them to prove their competency is really helpful. Reference checks, super, super, super important. So many companies think, you know, we'll get them done, and you ask the flowery questions. Nah, you got to dig. You got to phone those references. And it's like, I don't care about the nice crap. I need the dirt. I need to know, you know, where they can improve, where you've had challenges. Did they play nice with others in the sandbox? Like, that's the information, because there's nothing else that will prove somebody to you, you know, from their past work history. And if you don't like the reference check, and you still got like an inkling of like, it's just not, I'm just missing something, there's something else there, my spidey senses, ask them for a reference from one specific place. If they don't have references from each of their last 2 or 3, then ask them why. Ask them, like, I need a reference from this last company, why don't you have one? You know, people will say, oh, I'm still working there and I don't want to go down that path. And I say, that's fine. So we can rate you a conditional offer saying it's subject to a satisfactory reference check from your current employer. And we go in understanding that they may not be happy that you're leaving, but we're still just looking, right, to verify what we see in you. So, yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I think with the, just looking at the time here, let's kind of move on to a little bit about the differences between the virtual. Before I do that, I noticed that, I believe it's Cody from Nielsen Business Coaching, indicated that Indeed also has some applicant tracking features. So yes, I believe it does. So yes, Indeed has applicant tracking features built into it as well. That's great. Appreciate that, Cody. So a little bit about maybe the pros and cons quickly, if we can, about the virtual recruitment. What is your take on the virtual recruitment, Tara?
I mean, you know, we always greatly encourage 2 interviews with everybody, because the more you get to know somebody, then the more you lower your risk in hiring. So, I mean, for an initial interview, I think virtual works. You know, you actually, it's interesting, you get to know people a little bit on a different level when they're virtual, just because, you know, you get to see what their background is, or, you know, what they're wearing, or, you know, and those kind of in their comfort zone, because home is comfort or office is comfort. So, you know, the in-person, the human contact is still important. And, you know, it's anytime you're bringing someone into your work family, you decrease the risk if you can meet them in person at some point, which ultimately you will have to do at some point. It's just you can do that with your final couple candidates. But I think virtual is very effective nowadays. Chris?
Yeah, no, I mean, personally, there are some minor differences. It's sometimes hard to read a little bit of body language in a virtual interview, and things like that. Obviously, there's the struggles of the technology and getting it to work sometimes. But I think most people, for the most part, have figured that out at this point. So I think most of the kinks have been worked out. But no, I mean, I've really seen the value of the virtual interviews. 2 years ago, if you were to propose a virtual interview, most of the employers I have worked with in the past were a little bit gun shy on that. But now they've kind of embraced this virtual interview as both a more efficient way, and probably just a little bit easier to conduct, because you're able to do logistics. You don't have to have people flying across the country to conduct interviews, where it can be done just remotely. And as Tara said, you know, it can be done on an initial meeting, if you choose to do so. So, I mean, overall, like I said, I haven't really found a lot of differences. It's a little bit difficult sometimes to meet as a group, and you can kind of get a little bit of a feel from the group when you're in person. But you know, that's starting to change. I think as people become more accustomed to and familiar with the online interview process. So. Some quick tips on onboarding remotely. start with a plan. So making sure that you have a plan for your onboarding process once you've decided you're going to hire somebody. So making sure that you have a clear plan, including a checklist of kind of what you're going to do. Prepare something tangible. So again, I like to make sure that candidates on their first day have something that, is especially if they're going to be remote, having something that is tangible to the organization, whether it be some sort of swag of some kind, a handwritten note of some kind, just making sure that there's something that they can touch and feel that's from the organization. Communicate the plan for day one. So again, making sure that the individual knows kind of what their first day is going to look like. Start strong, meaning that you want to make sure that that plan that you had in place begins and making sure that it is followed. Prepare your plan beyond the first day, so making sure that you have that plan for the first week, the first month, everything kind of continues that way, and then review and revise a little bit based on how that individual is progressing in the organization to make sure that there's any changes that you might need to make to the onboarding plan itself. Tara, anything you want to mention on onboarding?
Yeah, not really. I mean, it's just about communication, right? It's a big, and just having a straight plan in place instead of just kind of taking it by the seat of your pants. So having a plan.
Perfect. Yeah. So I found that these strategies, can certainly help onboard an individual kind of working remotely, just in a little bit of an easier fashion that way. So. All right, we got through it all in our time frame. I think we're about a minute past, but certainly want to thank everybody for attending today. There's some contact information for both Tara and myself if anybody chooses to reach out and have any additional questions. But want to appreciate everyone for attending today. Tara?
Yeah, no, I'm curious to see challenges that people are facing. So if you do want to stay on, I'd be just curious to hear. And sometimes those can, if we can help, we can help. But thank you for listening to us.
That was some great information. Thank you so much, Chris and Tara. And again, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to throw that into the chat box there.
Or if they're daring, by all means, turn on the camera, microphone, and ask away.
Yeah, that'd be great. I also wanted to thank our committee members for joining us today, and for everyone else that signed up to listen to this presentation. So we appreciate your support, and we hope to see you again at more of these events that we're going to be doing. The next one we have coming up is on June 15th, and that will be hosted again by Chris Broughton and Candace Jensen. And the topic is going to be employment standard changes and things that have recently changed regarding job protected leaves, vaccines in the workplace, and a few of the other hot topics that are involved in the new employment standards. So perfect. Sandy, thanks, Sandy. All right. So if that's it for today, thanks again, everyone, for joining us. I really appreciate this, and it's great to see everybody's faces, and I wish you all to have a great day.
And again, Ashley, just want to jump in and this is the first session that we've done with these micro learning sessions with the Talent Resources Committee. If you have any suggestions on different topics or suggestions on how we can improve these sessions, by all means, we are all ears.
Absolutely, that's a great point. Thanks, Chris. All right, have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ashley.